Today, we're going to explore the M22 Locust tank together. Have you ever imagined a tank so small it could fly through the air? Could this tiny machine actually be effective on the harsh battlefield? Join me as we delve into the history, design, and the secrets behind this unique tank. The M22 Locust tank is renowned for its exceptionally small size, comparable to a Mini Cooper, a key characteristic for its airborne transport capability. Although the initial concept envisioned it being flown directly to the battlefield, the necessity of removing the turret and attaching it under the belly of a transport aircraft somewhat diminished the effectiveness of this design. Nevertheless, the M22 remains one of the earliest examples of a truly air-transportable tank, an idea that continued to be developed for decades afterward. Equipping tanks with airborne transport capabilities was an inevitable step in their evolution. Tanks are crucial for seizing and controlling ground in battle, but getting them there often presents challenges. The ability to deploy tanks directly from the air would significantly enhance their tactical utility, allowing them to be rapidly deployed to any location, bypassing enemy defenses. Such vehicles would be particularly beneficial for airborne forces, which often lack heavy firepower due to everything needing to be airdropped. The Soviet Union explored various approaches to airdropping tanks, including literally dropping them to the ground from low altitudes. Airborne forces typically have to wait to link up with their armored support after penetrating deep into enemy lines. Therefore, having a tank that could be dropped alongside them and used immediately would offer a significant advantage. The tactical benefits of large numbers of tanks causing disruption behind enemy lines are obvious. Prior to World War II, research into this concept was already underway, with the Soviet A-40 perhaps being the most well-known example. Various methods for transporting tanks by air were experimented with, including parachute drops, glider transport, attaching detachable glider wings, or suspending them beneath the fuselage of transport aircraft. Due to weight limitations, only small tanks with limited capabilities had any chance of being transported. Nevertheless, this concept persisted. In early 1941, representatives from the U.S. Army Air Force, Ordnance Department, and Armored Force established basic technical specifications for a purpose-built airborne tank designated T-9. Instead of being fitted with wings, the T-9 was designed to be carried under the belly of a transport aircraft. The estimated empty weight was around 7.5 tons, and its dimensions were to be very small to keep it as light as possible. The T-9 was to feature a fully rotating turret, housing a 37mm gun as its main armament. Manufacturers GMC, Marmon Harrington, and J. Walter Christie all submitted proposals to meet the requirements for the T-9 airborne tank. However, Christie's M1942 proposal was unsuitable due to its excessive length and lack of a turret. Marmon Harrington's design utilized components from their earlier CTLS light tank, featuring a vertical volute spring suspension system, a rear-mounted engine, and a front-mounted transmission. By late summer 1941, the designated transport aircraft for the T-9 was the Douglas C-54, an aircraft still under development but which would later become highly successful. The T-9 was intended to be carried beneath the C-54's fuselage. To ensure proper fit, a wooden mock-up of the tank was sent to the Douglas Aircraft Company. The tests confirmed that the tank could be transported, but only with the turret removed and placed inside the aircraft's fuselage. The turret was designed for easy removal and installation using the aircraft's own equipment. However, because the C-54 still required a runway for landing, the T-9 could not be deployed directly onto battlefields. The first complete pilot model of the T-9, constructed from mild steel, was finished in April 1942. The front hull of this vehicle had a step designed to accommodate the driver and the front-mounted transmission. Additionally, the right side of the vehicle was equipped with two fixed machine guns, operated by the driver and reloaded by the commander. The initial design of the M22, designated T-9, featured a stepped front hull and two bow machine guns. Following evaluation, several design changes were recommended, including strengthening the suspension and replacing the front plates with a single, better sloped plate. To reduce weight, engineers removed the front machine guns, the turret's power traverse mechanism, and the gun's gyro stabilizer. This updated version was called the T-9E1, and a prototype was built by the end of 1942. A second T-9E1 was sent to the UK for evaluation. At the time, Britain was developing the Hamilcar glider, which was capable of transporting a light tank like the T-9E1 directly into battle. With both the UK and the US satisfied with the vehicle, it entered production in April 1943. It wasn't until December 1944 that the T9E1 was officially renamed the light tank, M22. In British service, it was known as the Locust. A notable feature on the hull were the lugs above each bogie, which served as attachment points for suspending the tank under C-54 aircraft. The M22 Locust is one of the smallest tanks ever built, maintaining the proportions of a standard tank despite its diminutive size, resembling a miniature Sherman. The M22's design followed the conventional layout for its time, with the gearbox and drive sprockets at the front, the turret in the middle, and the engine at the rear. It was operated by a crew of 3, the driver, who sat at the front left of the hull, the gunner, on the left side of the turret, and the commander, on the right side of the turret. As it lacked a dedicated loader, the commander also doubled as the loader. In front of the driver one was the manual transmission, with 4 forward gears and 1 reverse gear. The final drives and drive sprockets were also located at the front of the tank. The M22's power came from a 7.1-liter, 434 cubic inches, horizontally opposed, 6-cylinder, air-cooled Lycoming 0435T gasoline engine. This engine produced 190 horsepower and approximately 488.1 Newton-meters of torque. While this output was rather modest, the tank's small size meant it still delivered good performance. The M22 Locust was only 3.96 meters long, a very small size for a tank with a turret, just about 10 centimeters longer than a 2022 Mini Cooper. The width of the vehicle was 2.25 meters, and the height was just 1.8 meters. The 0435T engine was an aircraft engine and was air-cooled. The small size helped reduce the area that needed to be protected by armor. However, the M22 had very thin armor. The thickest part of the front hull was 25 millimeters, while the upper glacis was 13 millimeters thick and angled at 65 degrees, creating an effective thickness of 30 millimeters. The bulge on top for the driver was 25 millimeters thick. The sides and rear of the hull ranged from 10 to 13 millimeters in thickness. The turret had slightly better armor, with 25 millimeters on all sides except the roof, which was only 10 millimeters thick. Despite being thin, the front armor of the M22 was well angled, significantly increasing its effective thickness. This armor was sufficient to withstand small arms fire, posing a challenge for infantry equipped with rifles. When fully loaded, the M22 weighed 8.2 tons, and when empty, it weighed 7.3 tons. Its 190 horsepower engine allowed it to reach a good top speed of 35 miles per hour, equivalent to 40 kilometers per hour. Despite its light weight and small size, the M22 was equipped with respectable firepower. Its main armament was the same 37mm M6 gun used on the Stuart, a larger tank that weighed twice as much. This was partly due to the M22 actually having a larger turret ring than the Stuart, which allowed for the fitting of a disproportionately large gun. Although by 1943 this gun was no longer a devastating weapon, it had been developed as an anti-tank gun and could penetrate 30 to 50 millimeters of steel depending on the range. Some British M22s were also fitted with a Littlejohn adapter on their guns, which significantly increased the muzzle velocity and armor penetration when using specialized ammunition. A total of 830 M22s were manufactured by Marmon Harrington. They could be successfully transported by C-54 aircraft, although the turret had to be removed. The loading process involved parking the tank next to the cargo door, using the aircraft's onboard hoist to lift the turret into the fuselage, then driving the hull to a position under the aircraft's belly, where it was winched up and secured with 4 locks. This entire process took about half an hour. Unloading was the reverse procedure, but the M22 was usually dropped directly onto the ground rather than lowered with a winch. Although this system technically worked, the need to remove the turret and the C-54's inability to land on all terrain significantly reduced the practicality of an airborne tank. The M22 did not see combat with U.S. forces during World War II, but the British used them on one occasion. Britain received 260 M22s, which they called the Locust. They were arguably better suited to operating this tank because it could fit fully assembled inside a Hamilcar glider. This allowed for a more practical realization of the original airborne tank concept, deploying it directly into the combat zone. This actually happened in March 1945 during Operation Varsity. 8 M22s were transported in Hamilcar gliders, although 2 were lost before even leaving the gliders. The M22 tank supported operations for the next few days before being replaced by more capable tanks. After the war, Britain sold many of its M22s to foreign countries as they no longer had any use for them. Egypt received the most, with a total of 50, and used them in the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. Today, quite a few M22s still exist in the UK, Belgium, Israel, the Netherlands, and mostly in the United States. So, we've explored the unique M22 Locust tank together. Despite its small size and thin armor, the Locust remains an interesting testament to the efforts to create an airborne armored force. Transporting it by aircraft, despite its limitations, opened a new direction for tank design. The M22 might not have been the most formidable fighting machine, but its agility and relatively good firepower for its size gave it a specific role, especially in reconnaissance missions or supporting light airborne forces. If you found this video helpful and interesting, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on more in-depth analyses of other weapons and military equipment. What are your thoughts on the M22 Locust? Leave a comment below. Thank you for watching.